been doing push-ups. I've been doing sit-ups. I've been doing chin-ups. I've been doing pull-ups. I threw up once, but I'm okay now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to a Tuesday edition of the Ysn Power Hour. DJ Yoakley with you, as always. And today might just get a little chippy because it's been one of those weeks where, once again, we've had to hear parochial versus public. We've had to hear recruiting versus open enrollment versus hometown grown versus it's time to have that conversation again, it sounds like, because from Yappy to podcasts to newspapers to, you name it, it's at the top of everybody's mind. And I think we all just kind of got to take a step back, breathe a little bit, and then let it out slowly. And that's exactly what we're going to do on today's Ysn Power Hour. We're going to talk about all of it. We're going to talk about all of it. Because, quite frankly, it needs to be talked about. It is being talked about at a reasonably healthy clip nowadays. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, it just feels like people need to let it out for whatever it's worth. And I'm going to try to do so without, and this is going to be hard, without offending anybody, but try to bring some points to light. Because some people that are out there talking about this very topic have zero clue what they're talking about on one side or even the other, and sometimes both. So we're going to talk about it. And there's points where you might have to help me out, folks, because I'm a public city school kind of guy in high school, went to a private school in college. I see the benefits on both of them. I'm certainly going to speak out of both sides of my mouth on this because I've been on both sides of this. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk it out. So one of those ones that yours truly, I'll take the sword for it, no doubt about it. But we're going to talk it out because there's a lot to unpack in that particular category. So here we go. We can't start this baby off any other way. It's on this day in sports history. Here we go. All right, so on this day in sports history, 1964, Mickey Wright. I wonder if she was public school or private school. We'll have to. Well, I don't think you could probably ask her anymore. Maybe she's still alive. In 64, she shot a 62, which is the lowest golf score for a woman pro at the time at the Tall City Open in Midland, Texas. So Mickey Wright on this day in 1964 shoots a 62 to have the lowest golf score for a woman pro at the Tall City Open in Midland, Texas. All right, before we get to all of what we discussed, right, and I know you guys are chomping at the bit to get to it, and we will certainly do that. I want to bring up an interview that we had last night. One of my good friends, Mr. Tristan Reynolds, the new basketball coach at East Palestine. We did a coach's corner. Great conversation. I really think Tristan is going to be great for the program. I think Tristan has the ability and the opportunity to be one of the top coaches in this area given time. He's under 30 years old. I know that he's got a great mind, great experience. His mom is in the Hall of Fame as a coach in Crestview, well-deserved. And he is cut from the same cloth that she is, cares about kids, cares about what they do, not only on the floor, but off the floor. We had a chance to talk to him last night, and we're going to bring that to you right now. Don't go far. You're going to love hearing what he has to say. And then, of course, then we're going to get into the knockdown drag out about the public versus parochial right after this. And welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. It is time. It's basketball. It's hoops. It's ready, and it's in East Palestine. First-year head coach, one of my good friends, dearest friend in the entire world, Mr. Tristan Reynolds, joins us for technically, I guess, this is probably, episode 2.
I think 2.
When
yeah.
we had you announced, you came in the fatigues. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but welcome officially as the new head basketball coach at East Palestine High School, man. How's it been so far?
It's been good. It happens in a hurry, and you're in August. Next thing you know, you're in November. You're getting ready to go play. So it happens quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Now, what's crazy is you get hired, and then all of a sudden, you're the hot commodity. Everybody wants a piece of you, and you're sharing your time not just with the varsity and junior varsity and the basketball program from top to bottom. And I'm talking foundationally the bottom, like 4 or 5-year-olds, which is amazing. But you also become involved with the middle school football program and given your time there. What was it that made you want to commit to that and really get involved and get to understand these players? Does it help, like, when you're talking to 7th and 8th graders, knowing kind of what you have the basketball, like, on the other side with the athletes?
Oh, absolutely. When you coach different sports, you get to see different pieces of the athletes that you have, the kids that you have, what their drive is, what they like to do. So middle school football was good for me. Recruiting some guys to come out and play. But you get to have a different conversation, rather than basketball all the time. You get to know them a little bit and talk about what they like and, why they're playing. And for me, I just like to be around sports. Absolutely.
So when you look at this, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity. This is a program that it has very proud tradition in this basketball program. You talk about the Binghams, the Burgers, in the coaching realm of it. What do you want people to remember about you as a coach? And you're a young coach. I mean, it's a great opportunity for you, but you've got a ton of experience already on your resume. And I think that's what a lot of people liked about you.
So one thing I want to bring, to the table is, I didn't graduate from East Palestine, but I want to bring back the brand, the East Palestine brand, the Bulldog brand. And that's kind of something we're hanging our hat on this year. We don't really have a saying. We don't have, hashtag anything. We say we work a little bit, but we have Bulldog pride. That's something we want to thrive on. We want to sell that brand, be proud to be a Bulldog, get out there, represent it on your chest every single day, night in, night out.
And I think one of the coolest things about you is you are you're consistent, right? Whatever you are, you're consistent. If you're playing sports, you're consistent. If you're coaching, you're consistent. If you're doing your job, you're consistent. People can count on you. And I think over the last few years, that's the one thing that's lacked in the basketball program is consistency, because I think everybody's looking for I don't want to say easy way out, but everybody's looking for that quick fix. And sometimes you just got to put in, like you said, you got to do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. We're grinding every day. We're in the weight room. We're working with the football coaches who've been awesome to open up the weight room for us. Coach Urialchi in there has been awesome. He's been putting in the time with us. We are working, putting in the hours. Started, like I said, in August, and now here we are in November, getting ready to turn the corner and go play our first game. So putting in the work from, start to finish. As soon as you step through the door, I always tell them, check the school stuff at the door. We hit the court, it's basketball. Then when you go home, check that at the door too, and go spend time with your family.
Is it easier for you now, like an old man like me at 37 years old? Sometimes I can't relate to these kids anymore, and I feel weird saying that because I still feel young, but you're there. I mean, you can relate to these kids, and some of the problems that they have, whether it's on the floor or off the floor, you can relate to them. And you were telling me some of the just quick stories about how that you can relate to these kids a little better than some of these other coaches can nowadays. Do you think that's an advantage for your kids whenever, you understand what they're going through, whether it be battling anxiety or things of that nature, things from the classroom, things from home, because people don't talk about that. We talk about X's and O's, and you're more kind of involved in the Jibbies and Joe side of it as well.
Yeah, I like to think I'm a personable person, that player coach. I take a lot from Dabo Sweeney
Yeah.
in that regard. It's more or less caring. You know, if you care for them, you can love them harder. You know, coach them harder. And you know, I benefited from bouncing around from different schools, different programs, being in different schools, working in the Youngstown City realm. So it all kind of comes to a head, and every kid's different. Every kid's different. How you coach one, you can't coach another, and how you relate to one, you know, you can't relate to the other in that regard either. So just being around and getting and just caring and, you know, loving your boys. Absolutely.
You talk about the players being different, coaches are different. And so, you know, you talked about Dabo. Who are some of the coaches that have influenced you and your coaching abilities and your coaching ways that you can kind of point to and say, hey, if you know this, you're probably going to see a little bit of on the court, even if it's not the same sport?
Absolutely. It goes back. Number one is definitely my mother, Hall of Fame coach for 30 plus years. She's actually on the staff this year with me. And then Coach Gates gave me a shot at the varsity level. And I don't think there's anyone out there X's and O's and game prepping better than him. So I take that from him. Coach Berger, Jeff Berger, who I talk to on the regular, got to see the defensive aspect through his eyes. And I take that and add that to my game. And then Sean McEwen, who was here years ago, you know, the upbeat style, the energy that he brought from the Ursuline side of it. So, you know, you just take bits and pieces. I'm not proud. I mean, I'm not, pride myself up to say that I don't take things from other people. Absolutely. I take it and I put my own spin on it. So
let's talk about your kids, man. From a standpoint, East Palestine, you're going to get athletes, right? You're going to get guys that are committed to multiple sports. Very, very rarely do you get just hoopsters. Talk about your kids. Talk about, you know, seniors down, what you're expecting from them, and who we're going to be calling their names.
So we got 4 seniors this year. 3 of which started last year, all lettered. Being leaders thus far, they were in the gym in the summer. We got 2 juniors that are hanging with us. I'm really looking forward to Shane Richardson this year, putting in the work. You know, he's one of those kids on the court where he's getting after, he's grunting during every drill. He's, you know, pushing it. You know, that's one of those things you're like, I like that. You know, gets you fired up. We got some sophomores. I'm really excited to see what Owen Uriachi can bring to the table this year. You know, he plays the 1 through the 5 for us. He's one of those kids say, go tackle a tree. And, you know, you come out 2 hours later, he's still figuring out how to tackle that tree.
Yeah.
And then Kyler Bourne, who coming off an ACL tear.
The big fella, big
boy down low. You know, so this is his technically on the basketball court. He's still a freshman, but you know, he's a sophomore. So I'm excited to see what he brings. And then we have a decent freshman group as well. Wow, we got about 7 freshmen, which is pretty awesome.
So one of the things we talked about, and I'm so proud of you for, is we already kind of glazed over it, but let's dive into it. The foundational programs. I mean, you talk about EPYSA, the kids that are in 7th, 8th grade. I mean, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. Even deeper than that, you get down to like the little pups, like my little guy. I'm so excited because it takes a lot of commitment, not just from you being committed to the community, but you being committed to those kids that, let's face it, you know, you may never see them up at the varsity level. Some of these kids might not play basketball. Your hope is obviously to get them excited and about it, but why? I guess the easiest question is, why do you do that? Why is that so important to you?
That's big to me. You know, that's just like the foundation, like you said, of the program. Like anytime, even if you're building a house, you want a solid foundation. That's our foundation. You know, and I like to see the looks on the kids' faces. You know, like, oh, that's Coach such and such, and you know, and go sit on the bench and, you know, watch them play, and they get all excited. They get with their buddies, and then they start to grow a little bit, and then you know, you're around, and it's awesome. I love being around our kids, and you know, I like pushing our high school kids to even get there too, because you should see their eyes light up. Like Mason Warner, when he sees Ryan Rosen, his eyes get all big, and he's like, "That's Ryan Rosen." You know, that's the kind of stuff that I love. So we push that. You know, at the end of the day, we're all one. We all wear Bulldogs, East Palestine. We represent it.
I love it. And the other thing that I wanted to bring to people's attention, obviously, a member of our community, a family in our community in need. There was a spaghetti dinner. We had the Crestview, or I guess the All-Star game for volleyball at Crestview for Winnie's Warriors. And I know that you made it almost mandatory to have your team there and work the event. Why is it so important to you to teach your guys stuff, not necessarily on the floor, but off the floor as well?
Representing, the Bulldog way, if you will, and representing your community and taking pride in your community. It was important for our kids to go out there. Our community, they show up night in, night out to watch us play. So anytime we get a chance to give back or help out, we're definitely going to do it. The winning for winning, my cousin Chad, that's his daughter. So a little bit biased there too. I made him show up to help, but they were going to do it regardless. They came up to me and approached me too about it. They wanted to wear their jerseys, so I thought it was cool. So they were there and they worked in shifts and they were helped set up, helped tear down. They were there the whole time.
That's amazing. We're so proud of you, dude. Me personally, you've come a long way. You've always had the swagger. I can't wait for the world to kind of see the new, improved, and mature Tristan Reynolds. I'm sure you're going to have some blow-ups from time to time, do some stomping, some patented stomping, but we're proud of you, man. So the last thing I'm going to leave you with is when people pay their hard-earned money to watch Bulldog basketball on any given night, what do you want them to walk away knowing that you and your staff and your team are putting out there on the floor?
We're going to put out a product that, it gets back to, I said, and I'm going to come back to it, is, Bulldog pride. We're going to get back to putting a solid product, night in, night out, physical, fast, playing tough basketball, being athletes, just getting after it night in, night out, from the tip to the final buzzer. Win, lose, or draw, we'll be there fighting.
I love it, man. I'm so proud of you again. Thank you very much. Tristan Reynolds, the first-year head basketball coach here at East Palestine. You can catch the Bulldogs this season right here on your sports network. Thanks, T.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So there he is. One of my, again, a guy that I feel like I watched him grow up right before my eyes, a kid that has been through so much adversity. In Tristan Reynolds and what he's gone through, family life, his personal life, and what he's overcome. I think it's going to be good for these kids. I think it's going to be really good for these kids to understand that there's somebody that isn't a whole lot older than them that is making a success out of his, I guess, the chicken salad. I mean, if you know the terminology, his mom is one of the hardest working people you'll ever know. And that's where he gets a lot of who he is. And again, cut from the same cloth. So proud of Tristan. Thank him for sitting down with us last night. And certainly these kids in Palestine are lucky to have him as a guy to look up to and to lead them into battle each and every Tuesday, Friday night, whether it's home or away. So again, love sitting down with these coaches. You can catch all our coaches' corners on ysnlive.com. Catch them all, because Ty and Anthony and the whole gang here doing an unbelievable job of getting kind of the up-to-date what's happening. Pardon me, what's going on with basketball season, because it's here. It is here. Yeah, we're talking football. Still, we got 5 teams that are still in it. But hoops is here. Starts Friday. So get ready for it. All right, let's shift some gears. Where do we begin with this conversation today? It starts from, it started a long time before I was ever in front of the microphone. The parochial versus public, showdown. It's a scenario that there's a lot of finger pointing going on. To be honest, I think there's some jealousy on both sides of the fence. I think there's a lot of people that get frustrated. Certainly, every year I feel like I hear these conversations about the parochial schools creating their own kind of conference or their own playoff system or their own this, that, or the other. Nobody wants to deal with the parochial schools because X, Y, or Z. We're going to talk about some of that today, because I have to be honest with you, and I'm going to preface everything that I'm talking about right now by telling you that this conversation should not be happening anymore, or at least the conversation of cheaters, or it's not fair, or it's not right, or it's not this, or it's not that. Ladies and gentlemen, to my knowledge, every school now has the opportunity, every public school has the opportunity to be open enrollment or not. They can open their doors to students from other districts or not. And this is a very touchy subject. So I'm going to try not to piss everybody off on this, but we have to be completely honest, because I can't stand by. And this is a guy, again, went to a public school. I can't stand by and watch these parochial schools, these Catholic schools, get constantly beat up because, well, they should be playing each other. They should be playing. We shouldn't be playing. Stop. Stop it. Stop. Are all things equal? No. Are they ever going to be equal? No. Do some years take advantage of public school system? Yes. Do some years advantage a private school? Yes. That's how it is. But the majority of this is settled on the field. And let me just put it out there. As someone who was eliminated when I played sports, my freshman year in baseball, my freshman year nope, I take that back. My freshman year in baseball, my senior year in football, my junior year in baseball, and I believe my senior year in baseball as well, by parochial schools. If I would have went back into the dugout, my coach at the time, my senior, Troy Burdine, would have, and if I would have said, well, coach, it's not fair because they get to recruit. That's the big R word, right? That's the 800-pound gorilla in the room. If I would have said that, he would have said, take your soft you-know-what somewhere else. You didn't measure up today, Yoakley. This guy didn't measure up. This guy didn't measure up. It wasn't that they were handpicked. It was that you weren't better than they were. So instead of constantly pointing at everybody else, like we're seemingly, I'm on Yappy, I'm on all these, and I'm reading these posts, and it's, they don't deserve to be with us. They don't deserve to. Just be better. Be better in the stands. Be better on message boards. Be better on podcasts. Be better. Like, I don't care whether you think you're talking about kids or not. You're talking about kids. You're talking about kids that are 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 years old. And if you want to be tough on the 18-year-olds, fine. But remember that they're not getting paid to play these games. You're not, if you think that you're throwing shade at a school or administrators or people like that, you're not. You're throwing it right at these kids. These parents sent their kids there probably not to win a state football championship, just guessing, because the odds of that happening aren't very good. They're sending them there because somewhere else they were either failed along the line, bad situations for a family, or there's family tradition of that family graduating from that institution. It's the same way that we have all these kids that go to Ohio State and don't want to go anywhere else because their parents went to Ohio State. But nobody hits on them. Nobody dogs them, saying that Ohio State recruits. I told you before, and I'm telling you again, that everything that you knew, parents, old people on Yappy, people that don't know what they're talking about on podcasts, everything that you knew going into it has been taken down a notch. Professional athletes are now college athletes. College athletes are now high school athletes. High school athletes are now amateur athletes. Yes, the ones in your community ball. Everything about them has been taken down a peg. College athletes are being paid now. High school athletes, we're talking about spreads. The same way we talk about them on Saturdays. We're talking about them on Fridays. Sports is a business now. Schools are a business. Churches are businesses. Everything is a business now in a world that revolves around all of this. It's a business. It's all business. And the faster you understand that, the faster you'll realize that things are going to get smaller and smaller. The ways that you can communicate, right? The world is a smaller place. We can broadcast from Tampa, Florida, from East Palestine, Ohio. The world is a smaller place because business makes it that. Opportunities are created for businesses in mind. If it can make money, it'll make money. Back to the parochial versus public thing. Open enrollment was created to become create a level playing field for those that pointed to parochial schools and say this, that, or the other. I read a post. I probably put way too much time into it yesterday, but it got my blood boiling. When you're talking about these kids, you're talking about these kids that at some point, whether it was first grade, fourth grade, seventh grade, ninth grade, 10th grade, whenever, they decided that they're going to go into a parochial setting. And I'm going to tell you that some of these kids are facing hardships at home that you and I couldn't take. You and I would never want to be part of. But we're going to sit there and tell them how to live their life and that they're a cheater because they moved to improve their situation. Let's take this into the real world, shall we? How many of us have had one job our entire lives? One job. You graduate high school, you get a job, and that's what you're going to do the rest of your life. You need to make money. All of a sudden, you take a job at 16 years old flipping burgers. That's what you're going to do your entire life. No, things change. Situations change. How are we sitting there pointing a finger at these kids saying you can't make your life better, or a set of a family and saying you can't make your life better one way or the other, whether it's going out of the parochial school into a public setting or vice versa? I don't know how we sit there and we can wag our finger and say shame, 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 shame on you, or shame, 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 shame on your family. There's kids that are battling things on a regular day basis that you don't want to ever know about. You don't want to be part of. And so we're going to say, well, you're only doing this because you want to win a state championship. It's wrong. It's wrong on so many different levels. To call these kids cheaters because they transferred, to call them, just names in general, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? I don't understand this. We're allowed to transfer colleges, right? Nobody sits there and just buckles the knees of these kids that go in the transfer portal, and they're older. They're 18 to 24 years old. And they're trying to better their situation. And a lot of times, 99% of the time, I would argue, maybe not 90, maybe let's say 80 as a low ball. They're trying to improve their odds of playing professional sports. Has nothing to do with the grades. It has nothing to do with what they'll probably 70, 80% of them will actually do in their everyday life. They're trying to get closer to a professional contract to play that sport. And yet we're going to come down hard on what? 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, sometimes 13-year-olds that decide that they're going to get into trying to better their education at some point, better their life. Maybe their parent graduated from there. Maybe their parent never had an opportunity to go there and they've always wanted to. Maybe they've watched them on television. We've watched them on YSN. They've watched them. They hear, they see. I mean, there's a teacher. There's a role model that they look up to. I've talked before about the open enrollment thing and how parents have turned it almost into a recruitment situation for open enrolling schools. And yet, very rarely for good reason, do they ever sit there and point the finger and say, well, he's doing this or she's doing that only because they're chasing a championship? The truth is, I'm 100% and always will be 100% for open enrollment. I'm all for a capitalist environment because the ones that hustle, the ones that work hard, should be the ones that get it done. And if your school district or your business or your whatever, again, put it here, if you're hustling and you're working and you're trying to make a better environment, a better culture, a better opportunity for kids, for parents, you should be rewarded if you want more kids to attend your school, right? You should be rewarded. If more people, like, can you imagine if everything was the same across the board? There was no competition. There was no opportunities. There was no hanging carrots. There was nothing to push you along the way. I understand from my standpoint that these districts are being graded harder than ever. And you can talk about what's going on inside these schools with testing and things of that nature. For me, it's a tough sell whenever you make it just about sports. It should never. The OHSCA says, if it's about sports, you're staying where you are. But we all understand that there's loopholes everywhere. And yet here are the parochial schools being roasted by groups of individuals that have no business talking about it because they don't even understand how open enrollment works. They don't get it. They don't understand it. And many times, and people will sit there and point fingers. It's not us, it's them. It's their, okay, I understand. There's different, situations for different school districts, different people. But if a kid really wants to go, or a parent really wants their kid to go to one particular school, there's not much that can stop them. There's not much. There are loopholes everywhere. Everywhere. I've seen it. I've heard it. I've been in some of those conversations to where people are looking at this and they're saying, we'll just say you were bullied, or just say this, or just say that. This will get you past it. I'm not a lawyer, but I know BS when I hear it. Some of these kids are open-faced lying. Or I should say parents, because these kids can't necessarily say it. And it's a struggle for me. It's a struggle for me to understand why every time, this is such a old conversation that it's like new generations just adapt the same stories that grandma and grandpa used to have and dad and mom used to have. And now we're going to point in the same direction and say, well, it's parochial schools that are the cheaters because they're recruiting. Listen, open your eyes. Open your eyes to this. This is a level playing field now. It has been for years. Open enrollment has changed the game to the point where I'd be willing to bet, and I'm visualizing this in my head, that when it did happen, the parochial schools went, oh, thank goodness. Now we don't have to hear about it anymore. They're not just knocking on the door of parochial schools. This isn't just in Ohio, by the way. This is countrywide that this is happening. Give me Liberty, baby, rolling in and saying, Glenville counts open enrollment differently. They should be a D3 or D2 instead of a D4. They beat St. V's 25-0. They grab all the best kids from Cleveland. Let's see here. Kristen saying, when I was at Boardman, we didn't care that we played Mooney or Ursuline. We played them, and that was it. Some kids go to Catholic school from kindergarten all the way up. I'm a big Catholic family, and my cousins all went to Catholic school from the start, and some do. And that's my thing. Just because a family lives in, let's say, let's say East Palestine, right? Because I don't know too many of these. And they end up going to a Catholic school or a parochial school. But they did it since kindergarten. That doesn't give a right for that for them to say, well, they stole our kid whenever they're, a 4-star recruit. That decision was made 12 years ago. Or the same thing can be said for any other hometown. If mom or dad went there and they want their kid to have a Catholic education over a public education, they have every right. That's why we live in a free country. Yes, I understand. The argument's going to be, well, we have a freedom of speech to say whatever we want to say. Sure, you do. But be educated on it. Don't sound like a bunch of jackamos talking about this stuff uneducated. It'd be the same way that if I had a financing podcast, I can get on and say whatever I want and people will listen to me because of I'm an influencer, right? But it doesn't make me look like less of a jackass if I'm saying it and it doesn't mean anything. I'm the first one that'll tell you that anybody can have a podcast. Anybody can write an article. Anybody can do basically what we do on a regular basis. And the proof is in the pudding. If you don't even have to look very hard. If you have a camera and a keyboard, you can go to town. But nobody ever sticks up for the parochial schools other than the parochial parents. And I'm sitting here as a public guy saying, listen, I get it. I understand it. But I'm going to argue that some of the comments that I read, some of them were spot on. I have parochial parents that I know very well. I consider them great friends. And they will abide by parochial kids. In one instance, this is a direct quote. Parochial kids never know what's coming. Right? So they've got to put their work in every single day. This isn't like a public school where you can look and say, okay, this guy or this guy or this guy is coming up in 2 years. So I can take it easy for 2 years. And then I've got to kick it into gear. Parochial, you could have a kid transfer into your district. Certainly, you could. But for public, those days are gone. They're gone, and they don't know how to react to it. Because you've got kids that are transferring into your district in 7th grade, right? In 9th, 10th grade, whether it's by moving or by open enrollment, and it's making everybody better. The iron, sharpening the iron, except for when it's your kid that has to sit the bench, and then it's, why do we have this guy? Where did he come from? The problem isn't just in parochial anymore. The recruitment isn't there. Recruitment's everywhere. And the problem that people are talking about, that they get all heated about, is that you can't even defend it because they don't even live in your community necessarily. You could have a family that has never, ever been there, never been to a school play, doesn't shop at your grocery store, and all of a sudden they're playing practice at your soccer game or at your soccer practice. They're at your football practice. They're in your school because your school is top 100 in the state. Your school presents a better opportunity than that young person's school did before that particular time. I am completely over the pointing the finger just at parochials anymore and saying cheaters never win, winners never cheat, that stuff, right? I see this. Like, I don't want to see it. It's sent to me and it's, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? I think it's crap. I think it's a cop-out. I think I'd be sitting right next to the bench the same way my coach was whenever I would come off and say, Coach, it's not fair. It's not fair. It's not right. These guys recruit. Get better. Get better. Because on Friday night, nobody from Canfield or from South Range was crying poor. Their coaches simply told them, get better. And they did. And on Friday night, they were the better team. Now, are Ursuline and Mooney going to sit there and cry and say, well, these guys had better recruits. These guys, no, they're not. They're going to lick their wounds, get better in the weight room, get better in the classroom, and they'll be back. I promise you, they'll be back. They know nobody feels for them. They don't care, quite frankly. But we're crossing a line when we're going after parochials just because we feel like we're safe to do so. I'm going to tell you straight up, I'm tired of people that push the envelope too far and then go and play the victim. Anybody can come on these shows, come on again, write an article, do whatever, and point out people, kids, children, and act like they're big and tough. And then when you scale it back, whenever you get a little bit of flack and you go, whoa, I wasn't, we were talking about, can't play victim now. You put your nuts on the table. Guess what? They're about to get crushed. That's how it goes. It's a dangerous game you're playing, friendo. And this is how it goes. When you talk about kids, even when you don't think you're talking about kids, even when you try to say that you're not talking about kids, you're talking about kids. When you're talking about a school, you're talking about kids. Parochial kids are not targets. They're not. They've earned their opportunity as well. I get sick to my stomach seeing this stuff. Because here's the thing. At some point, somebody's going to talk about your kid. And this is why, and I'm going to plug YSN because this is how we started. We don't talk trash on kids. There have been people that have done it before, and trust me, it hasn't gone well after that happened. We don't talk trash on kids. That's not our way. We've made mistakes. We've learned from them, and we've moved along. I can only hope that those same people put out a public apology the same way that I had to, the same way that we had to, and then we can move on with this. It's not okay to make kids feel the way that people have made them feel in the last week and a half, 2 weeks. Freak. Years. If you're one of those people that are on Yappy, if you're one of those people that are on social media, if you're one of these people that are on podcasts, if you're one of these people that are writing articles that aren't positively promoting kids and you want to take shots at them, then be ready for the consequence. Be ready for it. Be ready for the parents to come. Be ready for the alumni to come. I graduated from a private school. Some of these people that are talking about these kids graduated from a private school or had people that they love and know and are very close to graduate from private school colleges. But we're going to sit out and call out parochial schools for what opportunities that they have for being cheaters, for being recruiters. Guys got it backwards. It's twisted. Because right now, all it looks like is a bunch of babies making excuses or a bunch of sore winners in some cases. And keep in mind that some of these people that are parochial school representatives, graduates, are some of the most successful people in our area. So if you happen to run a business and you're talking trash, keep that in the back of your mind about what networks you're cutting right off. Because at the end of the day, it's all a business. Remember how we started this? It's all a business. And at the end of the day, the majority of these people that are having this conversation and not trying to just treat these kids as equals, parochial, public, or otherwise, need to start minding their own. Minding their own business. Because this isn't a climate that you're supposed to be in. People that treat public and Steve Ruman just had a phenomenal article, I thought, on all of it, because he got both sides of it. It was a nice article. What needs to happen? There's a level of competition. I get it, but not a level of hatred or a level of I'm going to treat you like this or like secondhand citizens. It's garbage. And I hate whenever, and I don't use hate very much. I dislike a lot of things, but I hate very little. I hate when you get kids involved and you make them feel smaller because you have a platform. These kids are just trying to be kids. They're not professional athletes. We shouldn't treat them as such. They're kids. They'll make mistakes. They'll grow from them. They'll go on to maybe someday be professional athletes, but God willing, they're just good people and great members of their community, unlike you. Change your ways. It's not worth it. To sit there and to just chop down one or the other. Listen, everybody calls South Range Saint Range. I've read it on Yappy. We hear about it. They know about it. People want to go to South Range because of the education, because of the culture, because of who it is. Not because of what trophies they can put in a trophy case. It's always great to be supportive of your high school sports, certainly. But these, I don't know. If you're putting that much stock into sports, that people are moving based just on whether they're going to get a state championship, then I need you to go back and count the state championships. That's what I need you to do. It's a tough pill to swallow, I know. One of our Valley's sports will not always bring home a state championship. But if you look at our schools, listen, we don't get into business with schools that treat people and kids like garbage. We get into schools that we believe in. That's how it works. We promote positive opportunities for kids through sports. That's what YSN's about. And I can tell you with 100% certainty that's what we will always be about. And there might have been days in the past that we strayed off our path. But thank goodness we found our way. Thank goodness we found the people to correct where we were wrong. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm certainly not saying this company's perfect. And I'm not always going to do the right thing. But we're not going to get into trashing kids, whether they're for our schools or otherwise. That's not how it's going to work here. And I can't speak for anybody else, but I can tell you with 100% certainty that we'll keep doing what we do. And that is promoting the heck out of these kids, whether they are public, parochial, whether they're from the moon. We don't care. We care about who they are, what they believe in, who their role models are, the people that brought them up, and at the end of the day, why they want to be better people and why sports is a vehicle for that. That's what we should be talking about. If you want to have a show about whatever, then have it about whatever. But again, poking the bear and then asking why it eats you. And I'm not the bear. I think everybody knows the bear around these parts are mamas and papas. Don't play coy. Don't play stupid whenever you get outsmarted. When the chickens come home to roost, Bobby Boucher, that's how it is. And as someone who has been down this road a time or two, the best thing that you can do right now, if you have even a little bit of guilt in your heart about this, is to apologize. Publicly. Apologize. Take your comeuppance and eat that crow. And learn to like the taste of it. Because public versus parochial, that conversation is always going to go on, but you don't need to be a jerk about it. You don't need to stoke the flames, and you certainly should not be poking around 17, 16, 15, 14, 13-year-old kids. It's not the way to go, man. Not the way to go. Ever. Ever. And especially just for engagement. You know, we all like to be liked, right? At the end of the day, we all like to be liked. But when all the dust settles, when everybody and everything calms down, those kids are always going to make you, or are always going to remember how you made them feel. They're always, and the parents, and the cousins, and that family, that community. They're always going to remember how you made their kid feel like $1 million, or how you made him feel like something else. So whether your kids are private or parochial, you should support. At the end of the game, I saw a great post. Great post by a member of the Southern local community. And there was a lot of extracurriculars that were going on Saturday night. Without getting into it, there was one young man from Kennedy that went over when there was an injured player and showed just unbelievable class. And one parent saw it, called him out for it. We don't see that anymore. That's not felt anymore. In a world full of social media badasses, we're so quick to point out the bad, and we never really get a chance or feel like we need to point out what happens when the right thing happens. We never shine a light on the good. It's always the negative, because the negative generate all kinds of pot stirrers, right? Stir the pot. Defend my honor. I get it. But that post, I smiled. Not necessarily about the situation, but I smiled because at that moment when you have an opportunity to celebrate with your teammates, there's still people out there, and there's more than one, that slow down. And I guarantee you, that player that was hurt, that family of the player that was hurt, some of the community of the player that was hurt will remember that young man for the rest of their days. And that was a public versus parochial. And I think we all need to take a little bit of what happened there and apply it to our vision when we see this. Public versus parochial. Believe it or not, cats and dogs can live together. We're putting this is going to go on ice. This conversation, it needs to. Because at the end of the day, you should be supporting all of them. If they're area athletes, we should be supporting them. Just people making the right decisions. And if they're out there and they're playing hard, and they're doing things the right way, it shouldn't matter what color uniform they're wearing. We should be supporting them and saying, wow, the kid's got talent. Not what's his zip code. That's going to do it for the Power Hour today. Quick one. Felt like it was quick, maybe because I ran it the entire time, but cathartic. That's going to do it for the Power Hour today. Tune in to ysnlive.com. We got a lot of stuff going on. Legends tonight with South Range. We'll have Coach Yeagley and a few of the players on. Come out, support the Raiders. 7:30 tonight on your sports network. We'll see you then. I'm DJ. This has been the Power Hour. Peace. YSN.